Last time, we talked about how to memorize medical terminology broadly with some powerful tips. Now we're going to zero in on insulins specifically. There's a couple of challenges here, and some of the mnemonics I've seen for this are okay, but I think we can do a lot better. We can make it much more magnetic. This is Dr. Anthony Metivier from magneticmemorymethod.com. We're going to announce some winners of my second edition, How to Learn and Memorize Medical Terminology, but let's get into the three main insulin types. And basically there's rapid acting, short acting, and then long acting, I believe, if memory serves. And there we go. And one of the ways that we're going to do this is to create a memory palace. So when I've seen other medical mnemonics, they give you some general indicators of how to memorize these things, imagining a short actress, etc., which is a cool idea. But it's not very specific, and it doesn't really help you see in your mind the chart from which you would learn these different insulin types. Now, the reason I could remember these types very quickly is because I used actors, and actors in a strategic way. So Ricky Gervais, he's speaking rapidly. His name starts with R, so that helps with the idea of Ricky Gervais doing something rapidly. And then we have Martin Short, so short acting, and his name is actually in that word. And this is a principle. Whenever you can do that, which admittedly is not as often as I would like, but it is possible. Just look for opportunities to do that, and you can then have an actual celebrity help you then move with that celebrity throughout your memory palace. Now, how about these numbers? How are we going to memorize this? Well, for the first one, we have 15 minutes. And one thing you can do is the number shape system. So the number shape system in a memory palace is something very powerful. A candle looks like 1, 5 kind of looks like a seahorse, and you just manage your way through these things, and you have Ricky Gervais moving forward. And for onset, you can have him on the set of a TV show, and he has a candle, and he's guiding the way for the seahorse, which helps you remember 15 minutes. For peak time being 1 hour, you can just have a candle, or you could think of another symbol for one, like a drumstick, something like that. Then when you get to duration for 2 to 4 hours, you can have a swan. A swan is a very good way to have the number 2 as a shape, and 4 can be a sailboat. So it's a very simple and direct strategy. And for all the numbers, the symbols that I use is 0, I have a donut. 1, I typically have a candle. Sometimes I'll use a drumstick. 2 is a swan. 3 is either a mustache that's tipped on its side, which looks kind of like a 3, or it's handcuffs. And 4 is a sailboat. 5 is a seahorse. 6 is a fishing hook. 7 is a boomerang. 8 is a snowman. And 9 is a golf club. And that gives you all the combinations you need to make all kinds of numbers. Now, I love using the memory palace on its own, but it's really powerful to also draw out your mnemonics on paper. So this one here is just a simple card that is for hypotension. And it's got some elements that help me remember that term and what it's for, low blood pressure, right? And there's no answer on the back of these cards because that helps enact recall rehearsal. Now, these cards and these images are also in memory palaces using the alphabetical memory palace method that I teach, but I also like to draw as much as I can because it gets haptic memory involved, and it's just a lot of fun. So this here, when I want to memorize long action, right? Well, Justin Long was our actor there. And then one of the medicines is something like Glaragen or Glaragen, right? And so to start to remember insulin Glaragen, well, I can have Justin Long glaring at Gina Davis. Now, I know you might not know Gina Davis, but you can think of a bottle of gin, or maybe you know some other Gina, or Janine, or someone like this, or you could just use your imagination to come up with a mnemonic like this. I know my drawing doesn't look like Gina Davis at all, but the important thing is that the drawing itself helps create a deeper mental connection. And as we were talking about in the previous video, there's ways to elaborate each and every connection. So I'll leave it to you to go and check that out. And, you can put your idea of your index card or your flashcard in the memory palace itself. So you could literally have a flashcard floating in space in a memory palace, or on a table, on a bed, on a pillow, Many ways to just integrate that in there. And by the way, you can do this for different languages. So this here reminds me of the Mandarin word for medicine, or yao. And it's just so much fun to have all of these wonderful things in memory palaces and just be able to look at your cards. And as always, you just want to make sure that you have nothing on the back so that you're not reminded. Now, sometimes you can put the answers on the back, or you can have little words that remind you of certain things. So this has MP4, I think it says there. So MP4 is not a video file, but Memory Palace Station 4. Talk more about that stuff at magneticmemorymethod.com. All right, so I wanted to mention some contest winners. Before that I carry on with one final tip, I want to thank the contest winners and get in touch by email. I will send you a copy of How to Learn and Memorize Medical Terminology, the second edition. Thank you very much for your wonderful answers, and I look forward to the next time that we hold a contest like this. All right, so the last thing that I want to share is the principle of spaced repetition. Once you have all your associations in place, where Ricky Gervais is linked with your images for numbers using the number shape system, then what you're going to want to do is revisit that information in different orders. So one thing you can do is go from Ricky Gervais all the way to duration, then go down to Martin Short and go back through the Memory Palace that direction, which is the opposite direction, and then down a level. It's almost like Donkey Kong, and you're just following different characters. So instead of being Mario on every level of Donkey Kong, you're also being Ricky Gervais, you're changing to Martin Short, you're changing to Justin Long, etc. And in addition to going forward through the Memory Palace, you also want to go backward through the Memory Palace. And you want to start at the middle of the Memory Palace and go to the beginning, and start at the middle and go to the end. And then there's another pattern still, which is to skip the stations. Why do you want to do this? Well, to get into all of the nitty-gritty of spaced repetition, I have a video on my main channel all about spaced repetition, how it was done thousands of years ago, and how that it has been optimized by a scientist of memory named Hermann Ebbinghaus. Get into all the nitty-gritty of why and how it works. So if you enjoyed this, hit that thumbs up. Get subscribed if you would like more information about using medical mnemonics, and then watch the full expose of spaced repetition next. I'll have the link down below and hopefully up on the screen here somewhere. But nonetheless, you're going to love maximizing your memory with spaced repetition. And I hope you enjoyed going deep into how to memorize insulin. And until we have a chance to speak again, thank you again, and keep yourself magnetic.